leave one of the remotes for my mom in the room upstairs. You know where they are?
Somebody's talking, but there's no.
downstairs room. In the
Yeah, someone just must not be on mute and think that they're on mute.
That's dangerous.
Well, you're not on mute, Rosemary.
I know I'm not. And you're
You
not
should-
on video, John. I can hear you, but I can't.
I was on mute, but I just turned it off to point out to you that you weren't on mute.
But you're not on video. We can't see you. I can't see you.
Did we all beat Marilyn here?
I don't see Marilyn yet.
Marilyn told me she might be late, but we're not even close to a quorum with regular members. And I hate to, load up a whole lot of associate members to make the quorum. I'd rather give Marilyn a little more time to get here.
Sure.
Rosemary, you're still not on mute.
I don't want to be on mute. I want to be heard. Hello, everybody. Great to see you. Have a wonderful day. If you see me fall asleep, it's because I raked leaves today.
Rosemary, the protocol is that everybody stays on mute unless they're speaking.
Hello.
Well, I hate to tell you, but I see 3 people not on mute.
Well, technically the meeting hasn't started.
Right.
So is there a technicality involved?
Thank you.
No, so it's okay to chat.
I do have a question. Who is Zoom user?
We don't know.
Okay, well, I can see that Marilyn's here now, so I don't have to call the meeting to order. Marilyn can do it.
Thank you,
You're
John.
free.
I have no idea who Zoom user is, but we will need to know who Zoom user is for the minutes, because Zoom user is presumably a guest. But anyway, hello, everyone.
Hi, Marilyn.
And
Do we have a quorum? I think we do. Let me call the roll. Debbie Small. No. Joan Coco.
Yes.
Karen Fotino. No. Karen Panett.
Yes.
Marilyn Shapley, yes. Nancy Zimlack.
Yes.
John Parsons.
Yes,
Sally Hoyt. No, not tonight. Sandy Schaefer. Jackie Behenna.
I'm here.
Oh, great. I thought I saw your name. Rosemary Di Benedetto.
present.
Thank you. Beverly Cuneo.
Yeah.
Great. Jolyn Eck. No. Karen Janowski.
Here.
Hi. And Nancy Tawadros.
Here.
Great, thank you. So among the full members, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, only 5. So we need to ask someone an associate to stand in as a voting, oh, Sandy Schaefer just arrived. Sandy, you here? Sandy?
How do I get,
Can you say present, Sandy?
you're talking, but how do I get there? And where's my picture?
Um,
Go to the upper right in the black. Click on up. No,
Here?
yes.
It's on, I'm already viewing.
She's
we hear
here.
you.
Gallery.
Marilyn.
And,
Marilyn, it's Karen. In the
Down.
chat,
hit the square.
the Zoom user is Michelle Klopper.
Ah,
In the hospital, but she's not going to use video.
that's fine. Hi, Michelle.
Here,
And,
mute.
She has her hand up.
audience.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, it is Michelle Klopper. Thank you for that. Is that I put that in the chat earlier on, and it's not a bad thing that I'm here. I'm here sitting with my daughter who just delivered a baby.
Congratulations.
So, yeah, so it's a good reason, but it's not a time where she wants there to be a public viewing.
We can understand that.
What's the baby's name?
His name is Palmer.
Oh, I love it.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so it's all good.
Great.
No, I don't know what that means.
Marilyn, I see Mark Doxer on here too.
Yes, but he's not a member. He's a
Oh.
liaison,
Oh,
but
That's
we're
right.
happy to have him. And who else? Kendra Cooper. Kendra, your guest tonight?
she has microphone and video off.
All right. Well, we'll just note that she shows up as a participant.
That kind of stuff, I don't know what that is.
All right, so we can call the meeting to order.
Yes, I'm present. This is Kendra Cooper.
Hi, Kendra.
Yeah, I've been trying to help Sally get online and we don't know why she's not on.
Okay,
So I'm going to go to her house right now and see if I can get her on because I got the link up.
Yeah.
that will be
Okay,
great.
good.
Thank you very much.
Okay, all right, thanks. Right.
We'll keep an eye out for
Okay,
thank
good.
her. All right, so we do have a quorum with the addition of Sandy. And we can call the meeting to order at 6:37. Welcome, everybody.
Thank you.
Let's see, I'll put you on full screen. Sorry, I just drove home from Boston. I got in the house like 2 minutes ago, so I'm feeling a little scattered. Okay, approval of October minutes. Did everyone have a chance to read the minutes? Would you like to take a minute to read the minutes and then we can vote approval?
Can I make a motion?
Sure.
I move to approve the minutes from our October meeting.
Thank
I
you.
second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All right, then I'll call the roll to approve it. Joan Coco,
Yes.
Karen Panett,
Yes.
Marilyn Shapley, yes. Nancy Zimlack,
Yes.
John Parsons,
Yes,
and Sandy Schaefer.
Yes,
Great. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, we're all set.
Excuse me, Marilyn, I think we have another guest too, Chris Kowalski. Kowaleski.
Chris is the program director at, actually, you're the acting.
Okay,
Why don't you
sorry.
tell us what your current title is, Chris? He's from the Pleasant Street Center.
That's right. Sorry about that.
It's currently the interim administrator for the Pleasant Street Center.
That's the word I was looking
Doing
for.
a great job.
A wonderful
Thank you.
job. All right, Select Board Liaison Update is next. That would be John and/or Mark. Actually, that would be Mark.
Hello, folks. Excuse me. So a number of you were able to attend the public meeting last week, which was great. If you weren't able to attend, I would encourage you to watch the video of it on YouTube so you can kind of see what the discussion was. But it was a chance to kind of present a little bit of what is going on in terms of thinking towards a new senior center, and then really to do some listening. And there were a number of presentations, quite a few presentations, in fact, but one on user-focused design and very specific to how to work through some of the issues that I know, Marilyn, are very important to you and others in terms of accessibility in particular. I know Michelle is on the line also. So we talked about that. There was a gentleman who came in that actually was the architect of the Pleasant Street Center. And he talked a little bit about some different designs and some projects that he's worked on, some of which were absolutely stunning in terms of what we were looking at. He is more of a new building kind of person than a renovation kind of person. He shared a lot of information in terms of concerns that he had and making sure we were looking at things. He had a much longer presentation to make than we had time to listen to, I'm afraid. But I think we caught some of the information that he was sharing. And anyway, it was a very good meeting. The real update, I think, from the select board is that at our last meeting, we voted to indefinitely postpone Article 19 at town meeting. And Article 19 is about Herndon Street, the former Walgreens site. Basically because it's not fully vetted yet. It's not ready for prime time. There's a lot more background work to do in terms of exploration. Can it meet our needs? What are the issues? What are some of the things we might do to mitigate the issues as we understand them, so that the select board and then the town can make an evaluation? Is this something that could make sense? So there are a number of things that are going on in the background. There is negotiation going on with the owner of the building now in terms of figuring out what the best arrangement might be that could be worked out with them. That's kind of piece one. Piece two is that there is we're having, I keep saying assessment. That's not what I want.
Inspection.
Yeah. So inspections, appraisals. We want to understand exactly what that building is and is not, what we could expect if the town were to purchase it. And that will have a big impact potentially on cost for renovations and also the cost for purchase. So that's going on now. There are other things going on also. There is a request for proposals that's gone out for a potential owner's project manager. So if we were to move forward, we would have a third party that would be working on that and working closely with the Permanent Building Committee on any project that we'd be doing there. After that comes back, there is one other thing that's going to take place, which is to put out an RFP for an architect with very specific goals in terms of what they would need to accomplish. And that could include getting us to a much more detailed look at what's possible in that center, kind of a 25% look, if you will, enough so that we believe it might be possible to share that with a future town meeting. And then first, obviously, it goes to the select board to make a decision to bring it forward to a town meeting. But it possibly could work out that we'd have a special town meeting called approximately February. And if we did that, and if it was approved by town meeting, that would allow a debt exclusion to go to the voters as part of the regular April election. So that's kind of an if and if and if. But that is a possible scenario in terms of taking it forward. But I think the biggest update is that at town meeting, which actually starts next week, we will be moving to indefinitely postpone the article on 17 Herndon Street, is what it's called. There are a number of issues that have been brought up, and we hear them loud and clear, and we're exploring. We're seeing what's possible. There are some interesting ideas being taken forward on transportation as well as parking. And when I say transportation, I'm certainly not excluding or ignoring parking, but I think that the solution that we've talked about at the council and other areas is beyond just parking. So there are some different things being explored to see if they're possible. There are some state activities that might be supportive of more transportation to get people to the center. Again, whether it's this one or another one, but I think that's really worthy of going forward. I think those are most of the updates. I think at town meeting, just so everybody knows, in the town meeting warrant, and I had mine right here, but I just am not seeing. Oh, here it is, right in front of me. There is the report from Recalc that I believe is included in there. So there is quite a bit of information, and then as things are changing pretty much daily, I'm hoping to offer just a little bit of a discussion as to why Article 19 is going to be indefinitely postponed. So that's kind of where we are. As it relates to the council, I think we're all still very interested in talking about needs, making sure we understand what they are. We look forward to the meeting on December 6th when we hear back from UMass and get more of the detail from the survey, which will be great. Recalc has quite a bit on their list of things to do in terms of some of the work that they already did, bless you, Nancy, with the 14 centers that we already looked at to kind of see what's going on. And I think what we want to do is keep the discussion going, make sure we're understanding the needs, see what the best solution is going to be that we can support, and then kind of take it from there. So I'm hoping that we can maintain momentum towards a new senior center. I think it's important that we maintain momentum toward it. And, you know, if this is a good solution, not perfect, but good, then I think it may be worth, you know, sharing with lots more people. If on the other hand, we decide it's not, then, you know, then we're kind of, we'll go back to kind of the original plan that we had, which would be to go back to the feasibility study. And then that would be a little bit of a longer process in terms of what's going on. We've heard a lot of discussion about different locations. Some of those locations were shared at the meeting. We got actually the help of some folks that work in commercial real estate in terms of giving us some guidance on how to think about costs. The numbers for developing new or existing locations are really expensive. It's like $750 or so per square foot. So those are real numbers, unfortunately. That said, those are the costs of doing business. So we need to figure out how to do that as best we can. Maybe it's a good time for me to take a breath and see if there are any questions or comments.
Nancy.
I have a question. I just learned that the drugstore down on was that a Walgreens too? Is
Right.
back on the market?
Oh,
Yeah, it's being offered for $3 million
Yeah.
as open space. In other words, not as a building. It's being offered as open space for someone who wants to take it on.
what does that mean?
What does that mean?
It means view it as an empty lot that they want to sell for $3 million.
I think that's interesting. You're talking about Walgreens down by the railroad tracks that you can get into Market Basket?
No,
Oh,
no, not that one. The one that's on Haven Street, right at the corner of High Street.
oh, that's too small.
So there were a lot of plans being discussed, and literally this week, that last week, it came onto the market, asking $3 million for it as an open area. I think it's 30-something thousand square feet is the footprint of the lot.
That's too small.
And so it's being reviewed again. So all these things, everything is, we're getting input in real time, and we're certainly looking at that also, as among other things.
Good.
Go ahead. Rosemary.
Walgreens on Haven Street, I thought it was slated to be condos. What happened?
So I've heard lots of different things, but at the end of the day, it just went onto the market last week. It surprised a lot of people. They did have plans for developing it, and now apparently they're exploring selling it.
Is it the same owners that own Walgreens on Hannon Street, Pleasant Street?
No.
Different owners? Oh, that was a Rite Aid. On
Yes.
Haven Street was a Rite Aid.
Yeah, but I think it was sold already once from whoever had it, and that was the plan to do, whether it was condos or other things. And they've kind of changed, the market has changed, and apparently they're exploring whether or not selling it is a good deal for them.
So given that thought that the market has changed, commercial property doesn't have the value that it had before because a lot of people are working from home. And so there's a lot of empty commercial property. So that should enter into any price that you might be thinking of for Pleasant Street area. And
Absolutely.
regardless of what we end up using it for, at the last chamber meeting, I said, I'm actually for buying that for a different use, for using it as a garage. think of putting a garage up over there. But I definitely would hold a line on negotiation because commercial property is empty everywhere. And that building's been empty about 10 years.
Yeah, so there is an appraisal that is taking place, and one of the factors that goes into the appraisal is what could it be used for and what would people pay? So absolutely, that's a factor in the negotiations, you bet.
So with an appraisal going on, are they taking into account that the town owns the land that goes right to the fence beyond the only 6 parking spaces? We could expand a garage to that fence, go up and around 4 or 5 levels and have the frontage open for businesses? Put
So
a
I
couple
don't
of
think so.
businesses in there?
I think the appraisal relates only to what this realty company owns that they're proposing to sell to the town.
Oh, okay, all right. Okay, I'm way ahead of myself. If you buy,
That could be a next step. That could be a next step.
I'll keep in touch with that.
Thank you, Rosemary.
Thank you.
Karen has her hand up, Marilyn.
Oh, I'm sorry, Karen, yes.
Thank you. Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Marilyn. So, Mark, seems like there's so many balls up in the air at this point. There's so many different possibilities. Who knows? You know, what are the next steps? I mean, it just seems like there's so much that's unknown, and the fact finding and your RFPs, and when is there a timeline anticipated? What are you thinking? When do you think that you would make a decision that would then move forward? You mentioned about February, but now with this new location, there's just so many options and possibilities. And it seems like there's ways too much to even consider. I'm just wondering what the timeline is that you anticipate.
Yeah, no, so there are probably, I think 4 or 5 different options that have been in the consideration set already. This one had not been there because we didn't think it would be available. But it now kind of is. And to Rosemary's point, it certainly has an impact on negotiations that we might have for this building. So I think that our goal right now is to gather a lot of the information. The great news is that Recalc was formed and has done a lot of legwork with benchmarking and with the survey. So we've got quite a bit of public input, if you will, in terms of needs, which is great. We can see what other facilities have, which is great. Now we're working to see what 17 Harnden really looks like, what the potential would be, what's the condition of the equipment with all the inspections, what kind of an appraisal we would get to see what the value looks like. And then I think the goal is that February timeframe. So, you know, this is November. So, you know, that gives us, 3+ months conceivably. We'll do as much as we possibly can and see if it seems to be, making sense and achieving a lot of needs, understand the costs better. And that's the purpose of those kind of next 2 RFPs that are in place, the owner's project manager and an architect. And again, we're not going to hire an architect to do the full architecture plan. But what we've received so far is just kind of literally kind of cutting out the pieces and putting them on a grid to see if they fit. Nothing really more has been done since then. We've received a lot of input, and that's great. Now it's time to say, okay, what would that look like in terms of a senior center? Does it make sense? How many of our needs does it check off? I think I've said this before to the council too. I think that if we wait for kind of everything to be checked off in perfection, I think we're going to end up waiting a long time, and that might not be the best solution. So I want to make sure that we have options and people will be able to, vote on their options, the select board. And then if the select board approves, then town meeting, and if town meeting approves, then the voters.
And just one other question. You mentioned $750 a square foot for new. Is that also what commercial developers were telling you in terms of rehabbed, renovated? It was also the same figure? So
we have, the only thing we have so far that I'm aware of, and Fidel can answer this better, is kind of the estimate from GNAP, which is an architect that does, let's call it kind of the rough estimates of things. And they put out numbers that were, I think, $750 to even $850 a square foot. And everybody's eyes kind of went up. And so part of it is, I think maybe that's a rough estimate, number one. But number two, people said, no, it should be $500 a square foot. That's not the market. That's not what's going on. It's unfortunately much more expensive than that. I think that as we look at different kinds of projects, everybody is kind of facing into these really large cost per square foot. It's still money and it's still money that has to come out of our pockets. So, we have to be really, careful and respectful. But the notion that, things are just, crazy in orbit and they don't make sense, unfortunately, that's not seeming to be the case. They seem to be kind of, in the right range. We'll argue and find ways to get a finer point on it, but it's not, things aren't $500 a square foot. That's not what's going on in the market.
Nancy. Back to you, Rosemary.
Mark, is the hiring of the architect and the building manager prior to any decision about whether Walgreens is a go? That's prior to the possible February town meeting, which is geared towards Walgreens, right?
Yes, I think that the only way that we can have the information that we all want is to do more evaluation. So we're doing the easy things already. The select board already approved funds for the appraisal, inspections, and all those things. So that's actually taking place as we speak. So we'll have that information. That doesn't answer layout costs and things like that. And I think in order for town meeting, in order for all of us to evaluate the opportunity, we need more. We don't need complete schematics and things like that. At this point, we certainly would if we were going to go forward. But I think that the select board and then town meeting and then the voters are going to want to know a lot better. Is this going to meet our needs? What's it going to look like? What's an estimate on cost? And so that's the plan, is to get to that point.
Yeah. So what I just heard you say was that the architect and the building manager would be prior to any decision about whether to purchase Walgreens.
So
yes,
if I understand it correctly, yes, but, and the yes, but is that they're not hired to do kind of a complete project. They're hired for a phase.
Right.
So for example, the phase is to better understand costs and to be able to kind of figure out how we would take it forward. Not that we are taking it forward, because until town meeting votes for that, it isn't going to happen. Nothing's going to happen. And then voters.
So I think the answer to my question was yes.
So it is, but if you then said, so we're going to commit, huge amounts of money to this, then I'd say no.
What does that mean? In terms of the building manager and the architect?
Right. So, how much money is going to get spent? So we have, there was money that was allocated from ARPA funds to do some work toward understanding the building and feasibility and what would happen. So, I mean, that's, funds aren't going to exceed that sort of range is my assumption here.
Okay. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what your, I'm going to make the assumption that the basic, architectural evaluation would be done to any prior decision whether to purchase Walgreens or not.
Yes. I think that we need that information in order to evaluate it.
I do too. Yeah.
Rosemary.
Okay, I have a couple of questions regarding Walgreens, the all-electric building. Has anyone contacted the light department to get the kilowatts used when it was opened and then factor it out at today's kilowatt charge to know what it would cost to run that building? That's one question. And regarding Rite Aid on Haven Street, does our town have any other particular needs for departments looking for space that Rite Aid would be good? And does Rite Aid have the same setup as Walgreens does with all those columns, about 30 columns, and a slab floor and all those hubs? And does it have a basement?
So let's kind of go from the top here. In terms of the operating costs and things like that, those will be evaluated. I don't know if they're already done or not, but they will be evaluated. Also, we would be working very closely with the light department on anything that would take place there in terms of how to make it as efficient as possible. You know, maybe there are some commercial incentives. I don't know the answer to that, but they most certainly will be involved in the discussion. As it relates to the parcel on Haven Street, the Rite Aid, I don't know anything about that place other than I saw the listing. That's the only thing that I've seen about it so far. So in terms of basement, columns set up on the inside, I don't know. What I do know is that the listing, if I read it correctly, is based on no building being there.
So whoever listed it, can we contact it and have a walkthrough? Because it is in a good location, and maybe our town has other needs. I think it's too small for even to consider for a center, which is what we're mainly discussing. But my feeling is that we should buy property in Reading and not let anything of value go through. And if they're asking $3 million, maybe they'll take $1 to move it.
So
that's what I would offer, $1 million.
I think look, we're looking at everything that's going on. We're talking to abutters to see if there are people that are thinking about moving. Obviously, we issued the RFPs asking people, hey, would you be interested in either leasing or selling? So we only got the feedback from the one group so far. But my personal opinion is that the town and town meeting are really going to want to know exactly what we would do with a building or a space or whatever before they're going to sign off on spending, several $1 million.
My bid's $1 million. What about the Purple Door Paint Store? They're closing. Who owns that building? Because that's right in front of the police department. That could be more parking for us.
So the cleaners actually own that. It's Anthony's Cleaners, and my understanding is there's a new tenant already.
Oh. What type of tenant, do you know?
That I don't know.
I have a question for you, Mark, as well. At the forum, more than one person responded to comments about, we expect growth with, over the next 10, 20, whatever years. And they said things like, we should be thinking 50 years. We should be thinking about a very long-term solution. I don't know what time frame is realistic and would not propose to pretend to say that I know what the right number is, but it does lead me to wonder, in the evaluation that's going on of the building now, are they looking at whether it would sustain expanding over time if we needed to add a full second floor or a third floor, for example? Because I don't know how else you could make it accommodate that growth for that long a period unless the demographers are completely wrong, which could be true, but one never knows.
Yeah. So I think it's a good point. I don't know the answer to it. I know that the second floor currently is actually a mezzanine. It's not a full second floor.
Right.
And I think we would want help from some experts telling us what might be possible, what's not possible. I think that's kind of in scope of the discussion for future growth. I love the notion of 50 years. That's a really long time.
I know it is. When you think about it, we've been at Pleasant Street 30, and that doesn't seem, it doesn't seem like we've been there that long. I'm just wondering whether those inspections and appraisals that are going on now, whether they're being asked to think about what's the structural potential of the building as it is to do something like that. Is that part of what they're being asked? I would hope.
I don't know the answer to that. I will ask.
Okay.
I don't know the answer.
That would be really good, Mark, if you ask. Especially, my understanding is the architect will be able to answer those kinds of questions.
I think I think also that
it's a critical question to have answered.
Yeah, I think that the appraiser really is kind of looking at the current condition, the current situation, the current market, the current everything. And that's the evaluation that they're going to be able to bring to us. And you're spot on. I think an architect is the one.
It's the architect that does the second floor assessment.
Yeah, and if
But
there's
if the inspectors would know things like what's holding it. I don't know. I watch too many of those Sunday morning shows where they redo the building and you can't put the second floor on because it hasn't got the right footing to the right depth and all those things. And I don't know that the architect would know how deep the footings were. They will?
Yeah,
They
well,
will? Or
well,
are you agreeing?
it's the role of the architect to.
Okay. All right.
to
I defer to
determine
the architect then.
Second floor.
I just
I
wanted
did a
to
little
ask.
bit of research on that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And remember too, the permanent building committee will have a role in any substantial project that goes on. And there is a lot of expertise on the PBC.
Yeah.
Ranging from architecture to construction to estimation to all sorts of things. It's a very, very, very impressive group. And I mean, it's great. It's awesome.
Great. Yes, Rosemary.
What are the fees of this impressive group? How much is it costing us upfront, cutting into the monies we got from retail?
So the funds that were allocated by the select board, there are some specific funds for feasibility study activities and related activities that don't relate to programming at all. And I believe that, I think the select board approved $25,000 at our last meeting specifically for the activities that are going on right now. So basically due diligence, I think was the exact phrase that was used. Due
Does
diligence.
$25,000 cover all that for an architect and everybody else, all the other experts?
No, it covers
No.
the stuff that's going on right now.
The inspect.
Appraisals, inspections, and things like that. That's what it was meant to cover. And then
How much is the architect charging?
so that has to be an open bid process. So don't know it all at this point.
Anything else anyone needs or wants to know? Our chance is here. I did, Mark, send just today the link to that video out to the entire council and encouraged everyone who hadn't had a chance to see it, or even if you did, there was an awful lot of information there. I know I'm going to be listening to parts of it again. I'm wondering if we could get the slides from Catlin. I know we didn't get to present them all, but there was a lot of info. He had like a checklist for a good senior center was among them and things like that.
We can certainly check with him. Absolutely. I think the other thing is that I would propose that we do some more sessions and open it up to other people that would like to, number one, hear some of the presentations, but more importantly, to share some input.
I think it sounds like a good idea. I found it immensely helpful. I really did. It was just, it's interesting. Until now, we've been asking this sort of vague, viewing elders as a lump, kind of what do you want, and looking for an answer of what elders want, and which is understandable. I mean, it's kind of where the world is. But this one was a different question. This was what do we think about the former Walgreens site? And it brought in such a greater depth of thinking about the project and opinions and support really for a senior center, not necessarily there, but definitely support for the need for a senior center, because things that people are concerned won't be met by the Walgreens site got articulated as, but this is a really important need. And I don't know that all of it had come out tonight. I just found it really, really helpful.
Well, think about how far we've come in the last 12 months. And
Yeah.
then think about how far we've come in the last 2 months. So it's moving. It is quick. I have to agree. I'm hoping that we can get the information that we're going to need to make an evaluation. And so we're going for it. We're going to try to have the information, and then again, select board will vote. And if they vote yes, then town meeting. And then if yes, then the voters. I saw Joan had her hand up. Marilyn.
Joan?
I did. Yes, Marilyn, the architect. Didn't we see him before? I thought we had come and gave a presentation.
There was a presentation. Jane attended a presentation, I believe, that I'm sure it was the same because I recognized a few of the slides. Jane, somewhere, I don't know where, attended a presentation by Catlin, and she asked for the slides, and she did share them with us at a council meeting. So
and I saw he came too. I remember meeting him. I remember him live.
Okay, I don't think I was at that meeting, but it
I
would
just
make
wanted to
perfect
know
sense
how
to
long
me.
ago it was.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he's been around.
Yes.
He didn't mention it much, but he's also the architect that's now doing the work on the North Andover new site, and that's a brand new, beautiful, from what I can see. It's near where my brother lives, so I drive by it fairly often, and I'm like, oh, it's beautiful. I want it. I don't think he was the original architect on that project. I think they started with someone else, and I think they switched to them, but I could be misquoting. That was information I got sort of in an offhand way. So it might not be a starting from scratch kind of situation, but that kind of makes it more like what we're facing anyway if we're going to refurbish one of these buildings. So anyway, I was very impressed.
Yes.
The focus is clearly on what things you need to make a building age friendly. And that
Yes.
was priority number one. It wasn't the cost. Of course, we've got to think about cost, but priority one was if you can't make the building age friendly, you're in the wrong building. So yes, Rosemary.
The architect we're talking about, isn't he the same person 30 years ago who told the select board, do not get involved with Pleasant Street Center, and nobody listened to him, that it was too small, it wasn't good for bathrooms, etc.? Are we talking about the same architect?
I believe
Yes.
so.
Yes. Yes.
So is anybody going to listen to him this time around after we pay him?
We hope so.
We haven't paid him yet. We haven't hired him yet.
No, but we hired him 30 years ago and nobody listened to him. And he was right.
Well, they told him that's what he had to work with, and that's what he had to work with.
Yeah.
Yes.
He also
and
was
this
at the
guy's
beginning
not
of
going there.
He was also at an earlier stage in his career and
Yes.
openly admitted that he's learned a tremendous amount about what senior centers need. I think we'd find it be a louder voice this time around.
Yes.
I just think we need space. We have 2 medical personnel squeezed in an area as big as a bathroom, and they've been there for years.
Yeah.
We have an administrator who took away one of the game rooms for one person where that should be left open for all the people there to use as a game room. We have a gentleman who drives our van in a makeshift little desk area right outside the ladies' room. Isn't that pleasant for him? He's listening to every flush. I hope they fix the doors down there because that door hasn't closed for years. You like that, didn't you, Mark? There was a little humor. The thing is, it's the truth.
The input's important, and Rosemary, I know that you had some comments about some things that can change now, and if I understand correctly, some of the things are being addressed, which is great.
Yes, Chris is addressing issues that we have talked about and asked about for years and years and years there. We're still not getting an answer totally about the heat and the smell of the gas. Although I have to tell you, which I told Chris, I do attend classes in Linfield too. And guess what? They have the same odor. And I was talking to Linda, who's in charge of that center, and she said that's an ongoing problem for them too through the years. So I don't know if we have the same heating system and there's something wrong with the system. Did you find out anything else, Chris, on that? Did you call Linda at Linfield?
Yes, I did call Linfield, and their gas smell is coming from their stove, so it's not from the heating system from what my understanding is. But going back to what Rosemary was and Mark was just chatting about, we have fixed quite a bit. We have a new dishwasher in, we got new hand weights. The blinds upstairs are fixed. I went through the majority of our list. Our heating system was inspected by the HVAC company through facilities. I haven't seen the report yet, but I have been told the system is safe and operating properly. But I'm still waiting to hear back from the report from the HVAC company on it.
The dishwasher was installed after 3 years without a dishwasher.
Dishwashers installed, so we have the new dishwasher in. Like I said, we have new hand weights for the exercise classes. We have box fans.
And elastics, you got elastic weights too.
I also had facilities adjust our heating system a little bit to give us a little bit more control. So we don't, so we can adjust, especially during exercise classes. You know, it's kind of a strange period right now because we're in a, you know, it's 80 degrees the other day, and tomorrow's is going to be 50 degrees. So this is a challenging time for, I think, most facilities, but we are trying hard to make sure we have pretty good control and keep the climate inside comfortable. So, but we have, like Mark said, we have addressed a lot of the a lot of things over the past 2 weeks. So I have we've got them. Not all, but a good portion of them, you know, fixed. So.
Thank you.
Do we have steam heat or forced hot water or what?
It is air. I don't quite fully understand the system myself, but it is air, but a lot of it has to do with the outside temperature and everything.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Fidel had mentioned a boiler, which made me think he had one. I just know in old houses, radiators can get water in them and that aren't supposed to have water stay, and if they aren't at the right angle, and it can get a really foul smell out of those. When the steam starts coming through, it sends the lovely odor out into the rooms. That was my theory of what it might be, but if you don't
they also installed CO2 detectors in the attic and in other various places. So we increased those just for safety purposes. So, you know, we are, safety is our first priority. So we always want to make sure our constituents are safe. So, you know, it is on top of, I know, my list, and I think the town's list as well. So we're not ignoring anything.
Thank you for everything you're doing.
Yes, yeah.
Thank you.
All right. We can move on. We sort of have covered the recalc liaison update, I think, in this. John, did you have anything to add?
Not really, and since we're running so far behind time, I think it's best to move on.
Okay, thank you. All right. Elder Services Report, Chris.
Yes. Overall, things are looking really good. Last month we started the Wellness Wednesday series, which is part of the ARPA, and that has been going really well. We've been holding them on we have 2 more events this Wednesday and next week, which will end our current 6-week series. We've been hosting them at the library, and we've been getting a lot of good numbers, a lot of participants, a lot of good feedback, and a lot of new folks that haven't been to the center. So we're really excited about that. The Harrow's Chicken Supper through the Reading Police Department was last month on October 12th. That was a huge success as well. So I want to say thank you to the Reading Police Department for doing that. So it was a great event. You know, California Carl came back. You know, overall, I know a lot of these things are the same from month to month. We just got word about a week ago that we have the Thanksgiving dinner at Hillview Country Club next on the 19th of this month. So we're excited that that's coming back as well. That list, we just opened up the list last week, and we're almost completely filled on that. Which we're excited about. We are, I think we're about right around 150, and we cap at 175. So if you haven't signed up, make sure you sign up. And we have the homebound Thanksgiving meals will be delivered on November 23rd, which we're excited about. And I just want to do a thank you to Christopher's in Reading for donating those meals. So thank you to them. So overall, the numbers are looking really good. We're still in an upward trajectory, which is exciting, always good. You know, especially our unduplicated. We're at, you know, as you can see in our total served, people served, 438. So we're getting really close to pre-pandemic numbers, at least on the unduplicated. And, our goal is to continue to push forward and increase our numbers. So overall programming and everything's looking really, really good, which we're excited about.
Great job. And am I correct in understanding we do have a receptionist again?
Oh, yes. Oh, shoot. I feel bad that I forgot about that. Yes, we have a full-time front desk clerk now. Anna Bassini, she started last Monday, and she has jumped right in. So she has been amazing over the past week, and we're excited to have someone at the front desk now. So if you haven't seen her, please stop in and say hi to her. So
That's wonderful. And am I correct? Some of the ARPA funds I thought were going to be spent on posting a full-time volunteer coordinator, but I don't see it posted. Has the plan changed on that? And it might be a question for Mark.
Jenna?
Yeah, I
Jenna?
can chime in on that. So
Okay.
yeah, we are just focusing right now on getting our staff back up to speed. So once we figure out what's going on with the Human and Elder Services Administrator position, Chris is acting. So once we figure out that position, we would like to hire a senior coordinator and then move forward to the volunteer coordinator, which would be a contracted position. So, and we're hoping to that senior coordinator position, we're hoping to add on in the job description, volunteer and outreach, so that they could start the process for that volunteer coordinator. So we'll have a jump on it when we're ready to go through the bid process.
Okay, do we still have, I know Jenny, you did a lot of work pulling together, getting 30, I thought you'd said 30, I may have imagined that, but a good sized group of potential volunteers. Are they still there and available? Is there interest?
Yeah, so I handed it along to Chris, and I know that a couple months ago I did send an email just saying that, hey, we're on hold right now while we figure out our staffing. But Chris, have you done anything with that recently?
Yeah. No, we have a lot of interest with volunteers. That is next on our list, especially now that we have a front desk clerk to utilize our volunteers. We're looking to utilize our volunteers for, our events now. So like pizza and a movie, birthday lunch, whatever event we have, there's no reason we shouldn't be using volunteers to help. So that is, like I said, now that we have a front desk clerk, we can, my shift has started focusing more on volunteers and utilizing what they have, or what they can offer.
Fabulous.
I think John Parsons is.
John, John Parsons, your hand's up.
I'd just like to go back to recalc for a second. I noticed John Sasso has joined us. I don't know whether he joined just because he wants to observe or if he has some input he wants to give. So I'd just like to ask John if he has anything he wants to say.
I'm in listen only mode, but thank you very much, John. If anybody has a question, certainly feel free, but I'm just here as an observer. Thank you.
There is also, that also brings to mind that John Sasso gave a wonderful presentation to the select board, I think 2 meetings ago. I lose track. We're all meeting so often. Well, if you count the forum was 1, so I think, anyway, it was an excellent presentation. I will try to track down the link on that and share it with everyone because it was a really good update on all the research that Recalc is doing and how they're approaching it. Not that many of you, you're usually available to go to sit through the Recalc meeting. So it's a really good, I think, overview of where things stand and where they're developing. Is that a fair summary of what it was, John?
Yeah, we still have work to do, but hopefully it was a value add for folks that got a chance to see it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I'll track down the link to that and send it out to everyone as well. It's another RCTV one, but it can be a little bit challenging finding things in there. So I will hunt for it and share it when I do. But start with the forum that was last week. It just really, even all the comments from the audience, it just brought so many new perspectives to the discussion. I just think it was really valuable all the way around. I'm writing myself a note, me.
Oh, Rosemary's got her hand up.
All right, Rosemary.
Okay, regarding volunteering, the avenue I want some feedback is volunteer hours for our elderly so that they would have a break on their taxes. From the discussion you're just having, doesn't sound like that's the type of volunteering you're talking about, is it
No,
not?
No, we're just talking about straight volunteers.
So
But-
what
but we-
programs do we have for our elders who are looking for relief on their tax bill?
We do have that program, and some of our volunteers are utilizing that program. So I know a few of them have already completed their hours for the year, which is good. So yes, we're looking at all volunteers, including that too. So we're not going to ignore that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Nancy?
I would just urge caution in delaying the coordinator hiring, just because we did that during the pandemic for good reason, but you know, another body is a good thing to have, especially with Chris's numbers. So I would just push the town in getting that position hired sooner rather than later. And that's it.
I actually agree. It concerned me when I saw it wasn't posted, and it brought back memories of, we went for a whole year without an administrator because the town chose not to post it. And the rationale, to the extent that there was one, was simply that, well, the center's not open, but there was so much outreach going on and they were so short-staffed. I don't think less staff is an answer to much of anything right now. It's just the opposite. We keep hearing we've been running understaffed for literally years now. And if we've got the money, it's been approved by the select board to be spent for this. It's a contract position, doesn't have strings. We've got a group of some number, I keep wanting to say 30, some number of volunteers that Jenna has vetted for us. They want to do it. They've been cleared. You know, it could just be pure outreach calls would be a big step forward for a lot of people. So I think that we should consider it sooner rather than later, just the money's there. It's been approved for the funding. There's have to be ways it could be used. So I'd encourage to get that posted as soon as possible.
Yeah,
And I understand there's change going on and you don't want to create something that doesn't fit in the picture, but
yeah, we did have a staffing meeting to chat about the future of the staffing needs over at the Pleasant Street Center and expediting the postings for the center. We had that meeting, I believe it was last Tuesday, and Fidel, Jean, myself, and Matt Cornelis were in that meeting. And the goal is to post for the senior coordinator after the human and elder services administrator squared away, which will hopefully be in the next few weeks, 3 to 4 weeks, we're hoping. And then in the new year, focus on that senior coordinator. So.
okay.
I've had my hand up for a while. Can I chime in?
Yes, John.
I just want to be sure I understand. We're going to find the administrator first. I hope. I think that's why we're holding back on the coordinator, because right now Chris is really the coordinator who's also serving as the interim administrator.
Correct.
And who knows, maybe he'll wind up being the administrator. So we can't replace him until we've got an administrator. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yep. You're right on. Yep.
And on the subject of the volunteers, I know you've got a long list. I'm sure you do. And every one of them would have to be queried because they haven't been queried recently.
Yes. And they
I
would
have
also have to
I
be-
had for another reason, because I had to be queried for recalc. But if you've got a list of 40 volunteers, I'll bet you 35 of them need to be recorded.
Yeah, and the goal too was to interview those volunteers as well, either via Zoom, phone call, or in person, just to see what they were really willing to do and able to do. So that's another step in the process too.
Okay, thank you. All right, Elder Services request for funding. Chris, what would you like to do next and how can we help you?
So we chatted about that this morning, actually. So the good thing is we have a lot of activities this month. You know, we have the Hillview Thanksgiving dinner. So strangely enough, you know, the two events that we're hosting and need funding for is just for this month is the birthday lunch and the movie and the pizza. So it's kind of strange, but usually I've been asking for 800, but for this month, I'm just going to ask for 700. I want to be respectful of our money, and only because we have a lot of events, but that funding is already covered. So, you know, Wellness Wednesday, the Thanksgiving, Lunch and Learn, you know, so we already have finance for all those. So for this month, I am asking just 700.
And that's for the birthday party and for a pizza party?
Yeah, movie and pizza and birthday lunch.
Movie and pizza. Could we have a motion?
No,
I
wanna
make a motion.
No, I want to speak.
Yes, Rosemary.
Please don't ask for less money. And please, instead of getting pizza, which has not been good, maybe look back into sandwiches at Fat Larry's. And please get us movies that aren't for 15-year-old people. We have all seen it. We have all heard it. We've all done it. So get us some current movies, not movies that are 40 years old. The last two movies I attended and took another elderly person because she needs transportation. She wanted to leave after a half hour. And the pizza we got last time, most of it ended up in the trash. Why get this food if it's not any good? Just don't ask for less money, Chris, because you're going to get less every month. Ask for more and spend it in places that have good food and feed the people. What did we have? How many people showed up for the movies? 11? And I know I left with Joan and a couple other people left. So how many were really there? And why did they leave? It's because the movie isn't any good and the food isn't any good. So I'm sorry, don't ask for less money. Just spend the money on the people who go there. Stop giving us cheap. Spend the money. That's my feeling. Don't ask for less money, Chris. Have it on hand and give people good food so that they go back and tell people, oh, we had a good sandwich, we had coffee, we had this, we had that. We didn't even have snacks at the last movie. You know, I mean, give me a break. The downstairs room with the where we can watch the movies, we can hold 15 and 20 people there. To have 11 people show up is sad, very sad. And why don't they show up? They don't show up for the reasons I just listed. Please.
Maybe a suggestion box on what movies would you like to see? People could put little notes in or something.
I have been asking. Now, something to keep in mind is the way I look at it is we're not actually cutting funding. We're just having one less. Over the past few months, we've had 3 events, and we've had $800 cover 3 events. And for this month, we only have 2 events. So we're actually getting more money for the 2 events that we have rather than asking for less. So I'm just being responsible with the money that we have. So we're actually getting more per event this way. So I'm not asking for less money. We just happen to have 1 less event this month because we have more events that are funded elsewhere. So I'm not, by no means I'm asking for less money. It does sound like it, but we also have 1 less event. So
you started a new group. You're trying to get the men to go there. Did anybody show up for that? And are you feeding the men when they come?
It's at the end of the month. Men's group is on November 30th. So, Nancy?
Oh, I would just like to make a motion that we allocate $700 out of the Burbank Fund as Chris has requested for the events at the senior center.
Second.
Second.
Okay, let me call the roll. We have many more members here now. We've been drifting in. Joan Coco?
Yes.
Karen Fantino?
Yes.
Great. Karen Panett?
Yes.
Marilyn Shapley, yes. Nancy Zimlack,
Yes.
John Parsons,
Yes,
Sally Hoyt. Sally,
Yes.
want to nod
yeah,
yes?
she's shaking her head.
Okay. And Sandy Schaefer.
Yes.
Great. And those are the full members. Okay, so it passes unanimously.
Thank you.
And enjoy, Chris. I think you'll put together great events. Financial report. Jenna, I know you said you were trying to come up with a new format.
Yes, so I sent it to everyone. I don't know if it's too little detail. So I'm gonna try to share my screen here.
Okay.
Can everyone see it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
So, so right here, you'll see the first one is the Burbank. So what I did is I went into Munis and I went to the budget that's available for that specific fund up until this point. So this
Excuse me,
is for-
Jenna, can you enlarge it, please?
Oh, sure. Is that good?
Much better.
Okay, I know it's kind of a little blurry, which is interesting. So right here, you'll see the available budget at the bottom that's available in the fund. You'll see the amendments portion, which I did talk to someone in the office who works with me who is in the financial world. I didn't get a chance to run it by Sharon Engstrom or any of the trust fund commissioners. But the amendments we assume would be interest, any of the fees that would come out of the account or into the account. So I'm just gonna kind of button up within the next couple of days where exactly those amendments are. But the available budget for the Burbank is cited here. So I didn't know whether you wanted more specific breakdowns of the ins and outs of the month, or if it is okay just providing you the balance.
I think what we need, because our goal on these is to spend the interest, not the principal.
Okay.
And the balance would be the principal plus whatever interest is currently accrued, which effectively becomes principal if we don't spend it. So if we could know the principal that has accrued in the fiscal year, and of that, how much we've spent. I think those are the two key pieces. And Mark, I see your hand up.
Yeah, and
Go ahead, Jenna.
Year to date.
and that was on those were on the other reports,
right?
But they're 7 pages long. But so what I could do is take those reports and make our own spreadsheet off of that information to itemize it a little bit simpler. And then obviously if Mark has suggestions, that would be great too.
Yeah, so I think that Endri, maybe a month or so ago, maybe 2 months ago, actually created a spreadsheet that showed kind of the original amount that was in the fund. And then basically anything beyond that is in fact accrued interest and other things. So if the mission remains, let's keep the initial amount constant, there's quite a substantial amount of money that's accrued in terms of interest over time. So it may make sense. I think we can track those down. I think they might even have been in our packet, but if not, I can track them down. And maybe that's a good starting point for you, Jenna, or for Diane to kind of dig in on that a little bit, just to know kind of what that amount is that's beyond the initial allocation, the initial contribution, excuse me.
Yeah, I think it might be beneficial too, Marilyn, if you and I and Endri and Chris could all meet.
That'd be great.
And just figure out a way that we could get you all the information out of a Munis report and how to effectively put it in a format that everyone would understand as well.
That sounds good.
Joan Coco.
Yes.
Joan Coco had also volunteered to work on this. She has experience in this arena, so she might be a good one also to meet with.
I would love that. I'll maybe just shoot you guys an email separately and we can try to set up a good time. I think Endri's only working on Fridays, but I'm sure Diane Marabito or Sharon Engstrom can probably help us as well.
Okay, I can join you frequently at lunchtime, or else it's after 4:15 is my world. But I can do my best at lunchtime.
Okay, great. And thank you for your patience with this.
No, it's a challenge. I personally don't mind the 7H one. Getting an awful lot of feedback. If everyone who's not talking could mute themselves, maybe we get the feedback to stop. It got better. Yay. No, didn't. Still out there. Mark, I think that the policy had been that any interest not spent in a fiscal year was rolled into it to become part of the principal going forward to the next year. I didn't think we were taking all money that has been added since the beginning of the fund viewed as interest.
So if that's the policy, then you know, that's fine. But I just checked back. The original amount of the donation was $211,000.
Okay.
If I could chime in, since
Yes,
I've had
John.
my hand up for a while.
Yes, John, we see you. It's your turn.
One of the things that I really liked about the reports that we used to get was it showed the last couple of months of expenditures of exactly where they went. And I would like to see those again.
Yeah, I would too.
Okay, I think it's important.
We were getting them again for a while, but it is a bulky report and a lot of people don't like it. But somehow I think tracking that the expenditures, but given that we're the ones that authorize it, it's nice to see that that's where it went. That's
Yeah, and
all.
I can send you those large reports too tomorrow. No problem. I just got a request the last time that they were too long. So
Yep, there definitely are many people that would prefer a shorter one, and
I can send both.
And there are also people that want all the detail too. So thank you, Karen Janowski. Your hands up.
Thank you, Marilyn. Again, as a new member, I'm still not clear on what comes out of the Council of Aging budget, Elder Services budget, what comes under these memorial budgets. So is there some way to get a better understanding of where the money comes from to fund different activities?
It goes back to that handbook, and there is no Council on Aging budget. We have no budget whatsoever. So that's an easy one. It's zero.
Yeah, I did send out a note too in an email. I'm not sure if everyone got it because sometimes I send out a lot of emails, but I did ask if anyone on the Council on Aging was willing to meet with me and go through that handbook and update it accordingly to get it up to date, because I'm sure it hasn't been up to date in several years. And in that handbook, it does cite what all the trust funds are for.
Jenna, I'll work on it with you since I'm very interested in understanding this process better.
Yeah, that's great. And I can also, I know it's several pages, but I'm more than happy to, and I think I suggested this in the email as well, I'm more than happy to scan the whole entire handbook and send it to everyone. And then you and I can work on it as an aside.
Sounds
great. You realize how many pages you're talking about, Jenna?
It's a lot.
Yeah, I mean, that thing could be 60, 70, 80 pages long.
That's all right.
Good job for a volunteer.
You throw it in the copier, scan it. It's easy. I'll do it.
And I take it you do have a handbook.
Yes.
Okay, they've been hard to come by.
Yep, and Chris has one too.
All right, that will be wonderful. Karen and Jenna, that would be just wonderful. So this has been an ongoing gap for a long time and it needs to be updated. Yes, Rosemary.
You're getting tired of me, huh?
No.
Has anybody thought about how we can get a line on the fiscal budget? You said tonight we have no budget. We're just operating off of interest. Why aren't we on the budget, the town budget? I don't know anything.
Elder Services is on the budget. The Council on Aging is not. We are a committee appointed by the Select Board. Or a board.
Can we get a line on the fiscal budget for Council on Aging to be spent?
Mark, do you want to try to deal with this?
Sure. So I think, Marilyn, you were spot on. So, Elder Services is definitely a line in the budget, or a series of lines in the budget. So there's no question on that. The funds that are being spent, for the most part, do come from these substantial contributions that were made in the past to support Elder Services specifically under the control of the council. So that's where kind of these discretionary funds, if you want to call them that, that's where those are coming from. In addition, there was just a big infusion of the ARPA funds for programming. But I think that the reality also is that as we talk about more senior needs and a new facility or a newer facility, that there are going to be additional needs. And we as a town are going to need to address how to deal with that. I think some of it certainly can be from some of these endowment funds that exist, the trust funds, those are great. And Marilyn, I just sent you and Jenna what I got from ENDRI, which shows the balances by year, which I think could be pretty helpful.
Thank you.
It also may make sense at some point to explore how do we create a friends of the council or friends of, I don't think we'll necessarily call it the Pleasant Street Center, but friends of the community. And I think that the library is very effective with this. There are many other organizations very effective with this. If you look at sports, and I'm sorry for using a sports analogy, but I see Jenna's head nodding too. The sports groups all are very, very successful at this also. It's a really good, I think, fundraising opportunity. And the last one I'm going to bring up, and at the senior centers I visited, they talked about how their thrift shops generated really large amounts of money. Not $100 or $1,000. Even in Linfield, they said this funds a lot of our programs.
Yeah.
So I think the reality is that we're going to want to look at all these options for using contributions, activity, sales, things like that as a way to fund, a lot more things. And I think that's going to make a big difference in what we can offer.
Thank
The
you.
library uses their house openings. The library uses their house tour to raise a lot of their money for the friends.
Yeah. I think it's a great idea. I don't know how we make it happen. Maybe we need to make it a topic to brainstorm of if one wanted to make it happen, what would the steps be? Maybe someone could speak from experience on another. It's sort of an awkward one for Council on Aging because we're not allowed to raise money. So anyway.
Need a lot of
also think- I think we need more room. We need room. Yeah. For any kind of thrift shop, we need room.
Right.
Linfield has the whole top floor because that used to be a school. They go up a flight, and that's all storage over there because they rotate according to the season. And right now they're doing a sale on people have given purses and jewelry and scarves, and that's an ongoing sale there right now. So they'll raise a lot of funds from that. But you need volunteers to go through all the items that have been donated. A lot of it ends up being junk, so it has to be taken away somewhere. And then you need people to set up the room. You need people to sit there to sell the items, collect the money, account for the money, blah, blah, blah. It's not an easy thing to do. I mean, we could do it, but there's involvement with it. And you need space. You need space.
And
All of
we,
which we
the
get.
Council on Aging can't do it because we can't raise money.
Right.
But maybe a volunteer coordinator could get involved in it, and there are lots of options. I mean, it can certainly be done. It's just not in the scope of what the Council on Aging can take the lead on.
But are you saying that someone who is in charge of the center could take that on themselves?
I don't know how these things have been done, Rosemary, honestly. I've not been involved in creating a Friends of. I admire them when I hear of them. And I've been told that we can't do it on the Council on Aging when I've brought this up in the past. And I understand that. That's our particular mandate does not allow us to do that. Doesn't mean we can't say we'd like it. I think it would be great, but we need to figure out who would be the person that would logically start the ball rolling and how do we make it happen? Because it's another one of those sooner is probably better than later. Let's get the show on the road and start raising some money. It also could be a great activity for seniors. You know, a lot of the stuff they sell is made by seniors or donated by seniors. And there's a lot of engagement, I think, of the senior community that comes through that process. So it's sort of a win-win all the way around. It just isn't in the scope of what the Council on Aging is allowed to do. Yes, Chris.
you know, I think one of the things is you know, I'm listening to this, and I know you know, these are things that have also been on like my mind over the past few months. You know, we're in a really exciting time as we move forward with, you know, ARPA, the new center, everything. And I think this is on a lot of people's minds to move forward with a lot of these things. And I think, you know, slowly, well, I don't think it's necessarily slowly, but, you know, we have the new clerk, we're getting the staff that we need, and these things will start falling into place. And a lot of these things I think are good things to explore.
It could even be as
Not just
even,
explore, but do.
yeah, even as a starter, and even just a teaser in the pleasantries. Anyone interested in seeing what we could start in Reading or something, you might find somebody speaking right up with, I've done that before. I know how to do it. Would love to do it in Reading. You never know.
Yeah.
But, no, and we appreciate you doing a great job of bringing things along, Chris. And please don't take any of this as criticism in any way.
Not criticism. I just want to make sure it's not going on deaf ears here. We're you know, things are, we're listening, and you know, we all, I think we all want to move forward, and there's a lot of great things coming.
Thank you very much. All right, that ends financial report. Appointment of a COA member to sit on the Simon's Way Committee as a voting member. There's a Simon's Way Committee. It's forming, and their first meeting, I believe, is in December. And we are invited to have a voting member from the Council on Aging. If someone would like to be the liaison, is I guess what the title would be, to the Simon's Way Committee. Do we have anyone that's interested in the position? Karen Janowski, yeah. I'm not allowed to make anyone else, just want to think about it for a moment.
Well, I'd like to ask Mark, can it be an associate, or does it have to be a voting
I was
member?
going to ask that also, since I'm an associate member. Is that possible?
I have no problem with Karen, but I just want to be sure we do the right thing.
I'm not sure the answer to that. I would imagine. I'm not sure. That's a good question. You know, if I was going to guess, I'd say it's fine, but it's probably worth just making sure.
How do we do that? We need to try to get someone picked tonight so that they can go to the December meeting. Yes, Nancy.
Can I make a comment? Yeah. Actually, I've kind of gone through this process in the last 24 hours. I'm on the board of registrars, and it's come to the attention of several people that when you're on the board of registrars, you can't be a voting member of an existing town committee or board. So I'm actually going to have to take my member position and reapply as an associate position. But as a board, even though I can still be on the board, I just am not going to be able to vote. So I'm not certain how that might apply to Karen, but it was Laura Jimmy and Jackie Laverta at Town Hall, who reached out to me and helped me solve this issue. So that might work.
When the question was asked one time, could an associate be the secretary? I got the answer that was no. That was from Laura Gem, I believe.
We used to have someone who was on the administrative staff of the town as the secretary. It wasn't a council member at all until I got invited.
Oh, that's going to be an issue. I was just going to still be a secretary, but I will call town hall tomorrow and ask.
All right. It used to be that someone who worked for Jane in town hall came to Council on Aging meetings and did the minutes until they got me to do it. And it was that way for a long time before I was there, to the best of my knowledge.
I just sent a text out to Laura, Jem, Fidel, and Jean. But my suggestion is maybe if Karen's interested, and everyone's on board with that, you could vote her first, and then pending that isn't okay, a second person that is a member.
And just, I don't know if it matters, but I have actually applied to be a voting member and do have an interview on Wednesday.
Oh,
Okay,
great. So even more the reason to do that, probably.
all right. I can't make a motion because I'm the chair, I'm told. So.
I make a motion that Karen be the liaison to the Simon's Way Committee pending approval of her ability to serve as an associate member.
I'll second that motion.
Second.
Any discussion? I'll take the vote. Let's go. Too many pieces of paper on this desk. Joan Coco,
Yes.
Karen Fortino,
Yes.
Karen Panett,
Yes.
Marilyn Shapley, yes. Nancy Zimlack,
Yes.
John Parsons,
Yes.
Sally Hoyt.
She nodded her head.
Sandy Schaefer.
Yes.
Okay, then it's unanimous, and thank you, Karen.
And Laura Gem said it's okay. As
Ah.
long as the board appoints the associate member to represent them, sure.
Okay, then it's a done deal. Thank you very much, Karen. I don't know what the date is of the exact first meeting, but it would be on town calendar.
Thank you all. And
I
thanks.
believe it's early in
for getting
December.
that answer so quickly from Laura. She's great.
Yeah. Okay, we got through that one. Council on representation on the MVES board. I don't think she's on anymore. I know they're getting one applicant, and I expect I will be hearing from them soon. So, and I don't know what the status would be with Amy for, well, it's going on over a year now, has wanted to do it. I don't know that she will. If anyone's in touch with Amy, or is it, I don't know that it makes sense. I don't know the status, and it's none of my business with Amy. I just know that they're holding off because they keep hearing that Amy wants to join their board. But if not, it's something that perhaps someone else in the staff of the Pleasant Street Center also might have an interest. My understanding is there are 2 slots. So once again, if you go to the
What's this for, Marilyn?
The MVES, Mystic Valley Elder Services,
Oh,
has
okay.
openings for 2 board members. I've mentioned it quite a few times now.
Right.
But there's only
I think
one opening.
Brian Snell was.
No, I'm told there are 2 openings. They're sort of holding one for Amy, but I don't know how long they will continue to do that. I don't believe she has acted on it yet, but I could be mistaken. But I was approached about 2 openings.
What position does Kerry Valley have there with them?
I don't know. I just know Brian Snell has called me and told me repeatedly that there are 2 board openings.
Well, just not less than a week ago, Kerry Valley told me she was on the board down there.
I don't think she's on the board. I think she's on the advisory. I'd have to go to their website and double check.
Yeah, they have many.
That was my
volunteers.
initial question, exactly what was her position down there? So,
Yeah.
okay. There's a board and there's an advisory council or something like that is what you're suggesting, right, Chris?
I believe so. Don't hold me to that. I'm trying to see if I can find it on their website really quickly.
Yeah, and I'm happy to represent the board too. We can talk to our staff and see if anyone wants to represent. And if not, then I'm happy to step up and be a board member, because I think that there should be someone from our staff on it.
I'm also happy to do it as well.
Okay.
So,
The process, as I understand it, is that people go to the MVES website and there is an application form and it's submitted to them. They review the candidate. It's just like what we go through to pick council members. They review them and they make a recommendation. Their charter requires that the councils on aging in the towns that are represented actually approve, send their endorsement, I think is probably the best word, for the candidates that they recommend.
Great. So Chris and his staff are experts, so I would love for him or someone else on the staff to be that representative and
Okay,
apply.
and as I said, my understanding from Brian is there are 2 slots, so.
Great.
I'd be happy to.
Michelle, I know you've expressed interest. Michelle has joined us again. No picture of the baby, but we've got Michelle. Michelle has expressed interest. I hope you don't mind my sharing that, Michelle, but in it as well. So if we could get, people need to speak up because I think they'll be making decisions quickly. And it
Can you
does end
send
up.
that email to us, Marilyn?
Oh, it's been a series of fragments of figuring it out. I'll send you the link. How's
Awesome.
that?
Thanks.
It would be great if we could get the 2 slots filled.
I'll take a look at that tomorrow.
Okay. All right. Yes, Rosemary.
I'm not volunteering for the slot, but I have a question. If a person is not an employee of the town, can they volunteer on Mystic Valley? Or is that a moot question? And when you're on the committee in Mystic Valley, is the end results, are you trying to get daily meals back at the center?
I don't have knowledge of Mystic Valley's goals. Chris, I see you're nodding. Yes, we are trying to get lunches back. What I have been told from Brian Snell, who used to be the chair of the Council on Aging, and he's very involved in Mystic Valley Elder Services, is that they're looking for people in the town who have experience and knowledge that would be an asset to it, basically. It does not have to be a town employee.
Oh.
But yes, going back to the other comment, we are looking at lunches at the Pleasant Street Center. We're just trying to figure out the appropriate. We want to make sure it's good.
The food, I know, because it wasn't.
All right.
Well,
I'm anticipating that next month by then we will have received what we need to receive back from Mystic Valley Elder Services, so we could at least get 1 slot filled. And hopefully we'll eventually get them both filled. And Michelle, I didn't know if you wanted to speak to this at all.
Well, I did meet with Brian Snell at your direction, Marilyn, and I was impressed with what Mystic Valley was offering to the 11 communities and towns. And I have to say it's very much in alignment as far as my belief system. It's self-efficacy for older citizens and making sure, as far as if people needed case coordinators, home health, to make sure all those services were available and of quality. So I really don't know much, because I just read, I would say go on their website and read what their mission is. And it's very much a self-efficacy and dignity organization.
Great, thank you. And thank you for your interest in this. I know, you're working through it. Yes, Chris.
And someone else we may want to reach out to is John O'Neill, who is the president of the RECAL committee. I mean, he was the head of the Somerville Cambridge Elder Services when I was in Somerville for quite a few years. So he may be a really good resource to reach out to. I would value his opinion and his advice.
And I strongly second that idea. Strongly.
All right. I don't know that I can send an email. I sort of got into recruiting and I didn't even know the council authorized this, frankly. Brian's been kind of in pieces. First it was an inquiry, was anyone interested? And then it was, oh, by the way, it's your responsibility. And I was like, really? Wait, I didn't see that in the handbook. So, but he sent me a thing recently, a couple of days ago, that states that their charter requires that the Council on Aging endorse candidates that they select. It's a convoluted process. to say the least. But anyway, there are 2 openings to my knowledge. In the past, Jane used to take one of them, and I think Brian Snell was the other. So it was a council member, plus it was the administrator for elder services. And since Jane left, and Brian left, I think both have been vacant. And Kevin and who was it else? Who was our last chair? I forget. Blanking on it at the moment. They pardon me?
No, wasn't it John?
No.
Thinking about Tom
Anyway,
Procopio?
they were not interested in filling it at the time. So it's been vacant. Both of the slots have been vacant for a very long time. So, all right. That's, I think, all we can accomplish tonight on that. Next steps towards a new senior center for Reading. I really encourage everyone to watch that video. I think it's a time to think. I think we've made a lot of suggestions to Recalc and to the select board and to Fidel, and I'm really pleased that they have been listening. The forum, they spoke with Michelle, who's an expert on the accessibility in universal design, and Michelle helped the town connect with the group on universal design that made the presentation. They listened to us about wanting an architect's input who's had the experience of building multiple senior centers and can bring that experience to it. And they were there. Catlin was there as a result talking.
And can I offer also to Marilyn,
Yes.
is that when I spoke with Fidel, he has had prior professional experience with the Institute for Human-Centered Design and thinks very highly of their work from his past professional positions. So it wasn't just my suggestion, is that Fidel said, when I heard you mention that group, he goes, I knew that they are wonderful. So just to let you know is that I think that we're lucky that Fidel is an informed ally in doing this work.
Thank you, Michelle, and thank you for your contributions and all of this. I really appreciate it. Anyway, I think it's time for us to sort of take stock, but the first step, I think, is for everyone to view that video if you were not able to attend. And even if you did, I think it's worth another look, because I just was really impressed by the scope of issues that got raised for consideration. Someone's speaking, I don't know who. Anyone else have any thoughts on next steps at this point towards the senior center? John Parsons, since you're our liaison, do you have advice for what the council might do next to help? I mean, we have resources. We could do more things like SurveyMonkey surveys to dive deeper. Maybe we should wait till December to see what UMass finds out, but this is something we can help elaborate on if we find more that needs to be learned. We can do more outreach. It's about time we started talking, and it's actually the next item on here. We did our outreach postcard about 6 months ago. I think it's about time to start thinking, and Chris, it would be great to collaborate with you on this and figure out how can we be helpful. It is part of the COA mandate to do outreach. We have funds for this that can come from the trust funds to do that. So I think we should be thinking about that. But again, we could also be trying to create more awareness. Mark, you're mentioning more forums, so it could be a way to make people aware of upcoming forums as we continue on that plan. I think there are a lot of things the council can do. Yes, Nancy.
Unknown caller. Sorry. I'd like to make a suggestion that perhaps a subgroup, whatever we called it last time, you know, a non-quorum group get together to maybe generate some ideas that we then can bring to the December meeting for the council to act upon. And I think it's my personal opinion is I think it's a combination of the new senior center as well as outreach. You can't do one without the other.
Right.
So, and people might have specific ideas tonight, but it's already 8:09, and so I'm just wondering if there might be a few people that would be willing to get together and take the ideas of anybody who wants to send some and put them into a format that we can discuss at December's meeting. I don't know. It's a suggestion.
I think that's a really good idea. I'm willing.
Where are you collecting these ideas from?
Things like watching the video.
Yeah, just ideas in terms of outreach. How do we, there's a whole population of people out there and they came to that forum. So how do we reach those people to get input into this decision-making process? And how do we get information out to people in terms of the Pleasant Street Center services, as well as the future in terms of a new senior center? I don't know.
Probably at future meetings when they have them sign in and have a column for them to add their emails. Because if you have just people coming and going and you don't know who they are and don't have any contact information, how are you going to reach them?
Well, we sent the postcard was it spring? I think it was spring.
Yeah, but you didn't even have 8% return.
No, that was not the survey postcard. We sent an outreach postcard to 10,000 households in Reading, just letting them know what basic services are available in the Pleasant Street Center.
Mm-hmm.
We have the ability, and where that came from is that when the pandemic came, mailing of pleasantries stopped, and pretty much all outreach that was designed to generate program awareness really trickled, because for all the reasons that were going on with the pandemic. But what we wanted to do was recreate the process, or to get it started again. So we sent a postcard to 10,000 households in Reading that made them aware of the services that are available, and also made them aware of ReCalc and what was going on.
Is there any type of a reverse calling system that could be set up for seniors? Something like the police department or the town does, but a separate directory of names?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
I know that different local political campaigns had something like that. I can't remember what it cost or how they set it up, but they were making phone calls for like local candidates for select board and school committee. Chris?
Something to be aware of as we move forward is we should probably be careful not to bombard people. I get this with when I send out emails, blast emails. If I send out too many, people are more likely not to come to the Pleasant Street Center. So I just advise, let's be aware of what we do, how we do it, and how often we do it, because we don't want to push to the point where people don't want to come. So I just want to throw that out there. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think Mark has his hand up.
Yes, Mark.
Thanks, folks. So a couple things. One, I think, Nancy, I think your idea is very good. I would encourage folks to volunteer and kind of bring some input to the table. I think in terms of outreach and talking to people and what's the best method and all these other things, this is like the multiple choice exam where you go through and each, you have 4 choices and then the 5th one says E, all of the above. This is E, all of the above. There isn't a great way to reach everybody because not everybody responds the same way. And Chris, your point's valid too. You can't just bombard people. but it would be great to have people be aware of things, make it easy for them to find out what's going on for different activities. And, you know, at some point, it's going to be, you know, whether it comes up very quickly or it takes a little bit longer, at some point, there's going to be a need for people to understand what the options are related to the senior center, be able to ask questions about it, find a place to look, and whether that's the Council on Aging site, the Recalc site, the town website, whatever it's going to be, some way to learn about what's going on, because in order for things to happen, it requires people to know what's going on, to choose to vote. And, you know, it's around the corner, however you want to look at that. And I think it's just very important that you're connected to people, having phone numbers, having email addresses, having ways to reach them with pleasantries. All those things are really, really important for programs and for when it comes time for people to advocate, to be able to advocate.
If we want to figure out how to reach millions of people, we should just consult with Maggie Hassan.
She's got a bigger TV budget than we do.
Don't assume that all seniors have computers and can connect, because they can't.
No, they can't. Well, maybe we need to revisit this in December. I know we're headed into holidays this month, and but if everyone could just be thinking back to sort of that mission that's on the website for the Council on Aging, it's to educate the public about elder needs. It's to research what they are and identify them and to encourage them. It's to do outreach. If everyone could just be thinking about that, and also particularly in the context of the new senior center and what we need people to be aware of. I think that it's something that, you know, our mandate is clearly there to try to be supportive in these ways. And we would do well to come up with a subgroup or some mechanism to brainstorm and bring ideas regularly to the council on this going forward. That's my 2 cents worth on that.
Can we adjourn, Marilyn?
I think so. If no one else has anything else tonight.
Motion to adjourn.
You know,
Wait,
I have a quick question.
Yep.
Sorry,
Yes, Karen.
this came up in conversation the other day. I'm so sorry. I know everyone wants to leave. What do we do when there are people in the community who cannot afford their heating bills? If we have some elders in the community, because that it will be an issue possibly this winter with the price of oil. I'm wondering, how does that get addressed?
Don't you know that, Chris? Yeah.
Yeah, we have a fuel assistance program going on. It was in the Pleasantries. I don't have that on me here, here at my own home office. But there are some dates coming up where folks can schedule an appointment for fuel assistance if they need it. So we are looking at that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And Nancy Zimlack, you had your hand up.
Yeah, if anybody is interested in getting together, I would be interested to put together, you know, just some ideas to float in front of the group in December. So you can just email me and let me know. I'll make the coffee and buy the donuts, and we'll just see if we can hash out some ideas.
Yeah, I think that if you're going to create a working group, that you have to designate who's going to be part of that working group.
I didn't think so, as long as it's.
I think if it's
quorum, we
not
can meet whenever we want. Yeah.
Yeah, if it's not a quorum. So
Right.
what is that?
Because
4?
who's gonna
Five.
decide who's on it?
Six,
What if
actually.
like all the members email you that they want to be on it?
She should be so lucky.
Then who do you
Okay,
decide?
Everybody raise their hand who wants to be part of that group.
I'll do it.
What exactly are you going to review? What is it you're going to do?
We're not going to review, we're just going to brainstorm. You know, what is it that we can do in the next couple months for outreach, for exactly what Mark was saying? You know, what is it that we can do? I mean,
I'll help you, Nancy.
okay.
And I will.
And I will.
Karen Fortino will.
Karen.
And Beverly will.
Okay.
And Joan will too.
And
Oh.
Joan.
Oh,
All right, so we've got Nancy, we've got Rosemary, we've got Karen Fortino, we've got Beverly, got me. Was there someone else?
And 2, 3.
Nancy, Rosemary, Karen, Beverly, myself.
5, 6. Did you get 6?
That's 5.
You didn't mention Joan Coco.
Joan Coco, that's the other one, and Joan. That's 6. That's a quorum. I can step off if the others, what, Mark?
No,
Why
I
is
just your point. You're spot on. You can't.
Yeah,
do
it's a quorum. We can only have 5.
I can step back. Karen Fotino.
Or I can step back. People are getting tired of listening to me.
but we could have a rotating group.
Sure.
No,
Mark's shaking his head no.
No, I think you're in dangerous territory. I think if you do
Okay.
something informally with a few people, that's awesome. I think when you have broad support, that's reason to have it as an agenda item and have
Okay.
a discussion as part of your meeting. And I mean, that's kind of what I think you're hearing is that everybody wants to participate. So that's great. You should do it as an agenda topic in a meeting. And if you want to do
Yeah.
things informally separately, great. Just stay under 5 or at 5 or under.
well, I'm willing to
Who was
step
the
out.
last one to volunteer?
Pardon me?
Who was the last one to volunteer? That could be,
I don't
rotate.
know. I was in the last one. Karen was in the last one. Nancy was in the last one.
I was too.
And you were too. Okay.
I don't know.
Karen, I think it's either you or me stepping out. I know we're both busy. I'd love for you to do it. I'm willing to do it myself, whichever.
Yeah, I can step back.
All right.
And I remind you, there's a motion on the floor that's been seconded.
But we haven't gotten to it yet. Hang on. All right.
I thought once a motion was on the floor and seconded, no other business could come up.
No, there's the discussion.
I actually, to be on Robert's rules or the equivalent, when someone has a motion to adjourn, that's not debatable in any way, shape, or form.
All right. I will take the roll on adjourning. My apologies, John. Okay.
Yes.
Motion to adjourn. Joan Coco,
Yes.
Karen Fortino,
Yes.
Karen Panett,
Yes.
Marilyn Shapley, yes. Nancy Zimlack.
No.
What a trouble.
I don't think there was an end time for these meetings, but anyways, I say no.
They were supposed to be an hour.
No, John, you made
I
that
don't know
up.
where-
I did not make that up.
Where is it in writing?
You can ask Debbie Small, you can ask Joan Coco, you can ask a whole lot of people. That was the carrot that was thrown out there. The meetings are only an hour long.
I never threw that carrot out, so it
No,
came from some other
didn't,
rabbit.
You didn't, but several people who joined under that pretense.
Then it must have been the selection committee that set that pretense. It wasn't the council.
No,
or
it
anything.
was Jane Burns.
She's been gone for years. And Jane wasn't on the selection committee.
Okay, so can we continue with the vote, please?
Yes, Nancy Zimlack.
No.
No, all right. John Parsons.
Yes.
Sally Hoyt
Yes, she's
Yes.
on her head.
and Sandy Schaefer.
Yes.
All right, so the majority rules, it passes, we will adjourn.
Thank you.
Have a happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
You too.
Thanks, everyone.